Boing.
And we're back, everybody. Sorry about that. Robert's mother was here to pick him up, and so we just had to go say hi and bye. So we were talking about when you got to college, you had a few disheartening experiences.
Yeah. I was, this is a danger for talented, people, people who have some kind of talent that they've been nurturing during high school, something that they're exceptional at. And I got a lot of attention for the art that I did and the films that I did when I was in high school. When I got to college, everybody was exceptional. Everybody was doing something in art school. Everybody had something extraordinary that they were doing. That was stuck on their wall, so I sort of had a crisis of confidence, a crisis of identity when I got into college. Who am I? I thought I was something special, but everybody here is special in some way, and so I had to find a new way to be special, if from retrospect, you could do all kinds of things in retrospect, but there I was having a hard time with it, and it was a weird time. It was the late '60s, and there was a movement going on in the California young youth or culture, sort of progressive culture, and that was the encounter group deal was happening. We used to call them encounter groups, and there when people would get together and they would sort of have this marathon session of confrontation and sort of usually there was a moderator, a counselor, a mental health counselor, or somebody available, but a lot of times there wasn't. It was just somebody who thought they were good at it, and so we would spend the entire night confronting each other on our hypocrisy or our mask, and trying to break down those barriers that people. It was all about breaking down barriers, because it was the age of R.D. Laing. It was the age of enlightenment. It was the age of trying to get behind all the boundaries that society had put up to protect each other, really, but we saw them as artificial boundaries that were there just to keep us from having true experience. So we were looking for the true experiences of life, and we were using drugs, and we were using also these group sessions, and which involved staying up all night, and I saw a lot of people were hurt during these sessions. One girl left school. She was so embarrassed by what happened during this group session that she wound up leaving school and going back to the Midwest or wherever she was from. So it was that period where of questioning, of doubt, of thinking about who you were and who you wanted to be, and thinking you were being artificial if you weren't being real all the time. So I think I was affected by that too, and I was just confused, and I just had to figure out things for myself. And basically, ever since that time, I've still trying to figure it out.
It's life is just a process of trying to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
So did you finish college?
I went back later after when I was going to go to the Chicago Art Institute. I was accepted, but I didn't have the money for it. So, and I didn't know how to pursue, grants and stuff. So it comes on my own. I had made a pledge that I wouldn't talk to my folks for over a year. I think about a year I didn't talk to them at all. I didn't get any help from them or anything. because I needed to break those ties. I needed to find myself. What wound up happening is I got drafted. So so I got drafted into the U.S. Army, and after trying to put up a fight and to get disqualified for medical reasons, I couldn't manage that. So I wound up going into the military. And then after the military, that's a whole new set of stories. But after the military was over, I went back to school, but instead of doing art, I did humanities. I went to LA City College and went to a counselor and said, "What the hell can I do with all this stuff that I've been doing, taking art history and psychology and things?" And he says, "Well, we can get you through a humanities degree at Cal State Northridge." So that's what I did. I got a degree in humanities. I'm glad I did, because a lot of people go through film school. And I would have gone, if I'd stayed in school, I would have graduated from film school. I would have been about 20, 22 years old. I wouldn't know anything about anything except how to run an ARRI-S, or how to do sound, or how to do some editing on a Steenbeck flatbed editor, and maybe how to tell a story. But what stories am I going to be telling? I don't have any life experience to talk about. Of course, I do have life experiences as a young man growing up. You have these incredible experiences that a lot of people tell that story when they're older. They go back and they look back at their youth and they tell the coming of age stories. So I was experiencing the coming of age, but I had no way to interpret that. And so what happens is a lot of people graduate from film school or art school, and they don't know anything about anything except art, other art. So they make films about other films. So we had a whole crop of filmmakers in the last couple generations that really are not making films about life, but are making films about other films. So what happened to me was that I dropped out. I went and had some life experiences. Then when I went back, I studied the history of human expression through humanities, and I got a grounding in that, and so that helped me later on become a documentary filmmaker. I knew how to study, I knew how to read, I knew what the basic texts were for basic subjects, and I could then go and work with a museum to develop their exhibit and to add to that, and that really paid off. So, you don't have to go to art school to be an artist. You can learn you can learn all the basics yourself, just by reading books and studying, or following somebody around, or becoming an apprentice for a cameraman or whatever. You can learn everything you need to learn just by observation. It's what do you have to say, so. Yeah, I took my education from the Greeks theater and medieval plays and Chaucer and those great storytellers of history, and so that was my school.
Very cool. When did you start getting into documentaries?
Well, when I got somebody pregnant, and I married her, and then I had to figure out, that was before I was finished with my education. Then I had to figure out how to try to make a living. So I thought, I should be able to make a living with documentary films. I had no idea what I was saying, but so I thought it might be more, there may be more money in documentaries than in trying to do fiction films, trying to do narratives, and just hoping for a break. I mean, I did do a narrative film called The Ghostwriter, and I didn't actually finish it, but I got it to a rough cut stage, and with the soundtrack and everything, and I showed it around, and it was a pretty good film, but but I didn't think I could make a living at it. So I had an idea for a documentary film on the Columbia River. At that time, we were in LA, but then I moved my family up here, and then my wife's parents lived in Astoria, Oregon, and I learned about the bar of the Columbia. The Columbia River Bar is one of the most dangerous bars in the world. The bar is the area between the river and the ocean that ships have to cross to come in. There's surf there. There's all kinds of treacherous sandbars. And so I thought it'd be a good subject for a film. Over history, there's been thousands, well, not thousands, but hundreds of wrecks there, and it's a good story and interesting. So so I set about making a documentary film about the Columbia River, which never got completed because I never could find the money, but it got me started. And so I started doing films for history museums, for cultural museums, and that kept me in the game, so that I could actually make films that had, and I actually had a lot of artistic sort of freedom of expression during that process, because the people that I worked for, allowed that. And then I also got hooked up with the Northwest Film Center and started doing residencies at high schools, long-term residencies. So we did films about various subjects, and that sort of kept me employed and kept me in the game, and I was able to eke out a living over time.